If you're going to make a podcast, it would serve you best to understand why people are listening to podcasts in the first place. Here are the top 14 reasons people push play on a podcast. Number 1, to be entertained. People want entertainment. They want some kind of escapism. They want something that's going to help them pass their time. Usually with a podcast, they're doing something at the same time. They're on the elliptical, they're on the Peloton, maybe they're going shopping, they're working around the house, something like that, and you're the 25th hour in their day. Entertain them. Number 2, they want to hear interesting stories. This is one of the points I really stress with my clients. I like not starting a podcast by saying, hey, welcome back to the such and such podcast. It's Doug again. Good to have you here. Blah, 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 blah. Open with a story. I mean, right into the story. Don't say, hi, how are you? Here's a story. Go right into the story. Let me tell you something about Charles Atlas. Swing right into the story. This is why they're pushing play, is to hear those great stories. Number 3. They want to learn something new. This is number 1 for business podcasts or investing podcasts. But for the overall general look at podcasts, learning something new is something people are definitely pushing play so that they can get that information. If you've got a neat angle or a neat hook on something, you've got a different way of codifying something or a different perspective on something. Maybe you are really an expert in your field. Share that information because people do love to learn something new that they can use around the house. Number 4, to become more knowledgeable, to get smarter, something that they can brag to their friends about or something that's just plain useful for them. Again, this is one of the top reasons that people listen to business podcasts. Number 5, for a laugh. This is why comedy podcasts are so popular. I actually think this is why true crime podcasts, especially among female listeners, where that genre absolutely thrives. I think they kind of make us giggle in a lot of ways. People want to laugh, and podcasts are a great way to do that. The next one, information on personal interests and hobbies. So I happen to play guitar. I really like guitar. I don't always listen to guitar-focused podcasts, but if I'm working on, say, a classical piece or I might be working on Stairway to Heaven or something I haven't played for a long time, I might listen to a podcast episode that's talking about that. There might be a particular podcaster who's got a really interesting take on something or an interesting approach on something. Maybe he has some knowledge that I don't have. This goes right into my hobbies, my personal interests. It niches. This is, again, why niche is so important in your podcast. Next one, to lift their mood, to make them feel a little bit better about themselves and in their day. Even though they're still going about their daily function, maybe they're driving, maybe they're doing the dishes, maybe they're looking after baby at the time, they still have to go through their daily grind. They want you to help them feel better about things, lift their mood. Next, a deeper perspective on news and current events. This analytical part of the news cycle has always existed. It used to be magazines like Life and Time, that in Canada, Maclean's magazine, and they would come out quarterly or maybe they'd come out monthly. And this was the analytical part of the news cycle. But today, I mean, let's face it, by the time the 6 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock news comes on television or we read it in the newspaper, we already know what's happened. It forces most media sources to try to get to the analysis that much faster, and they can't do it. There's just not enough time. But with a podcast, especially one that goes in conversation, maybe with an expert, you can go a lot deeper on a particular niche part of the story. You can explore different parts of the story and give people more information on things that they value. Next, engage my mind while I'm doing mindless tasks. Doing the dishes, mowing the lawn, maybe shoveling the walk. Driving shouldn't be a mindless task. That should be very safety focused. But let's face it, most of us are kind of just with our hands on the wheel, right? So they're looking for that kind of break, something to stimulate their mind. Podcast listeners are not the same as music listeners, where really I can just kind of escape if I'm listening to music. But if I choose to listen to a podcast, I want something that's going to keep me going. Inspiration. Boy, it depends on what your podcast is about. Maybe your podcast is focused on helping people who are depressed or anxious or have a hard time with something. I have one client has a decluttering podcast, and she knows darn well that a lot of her listeners, this is personally very, very hard for them. And decluttering is helping them not just ease things around the house, but it's helping to declutter their mind at the same time. They're looking for that inspiration. Next, to have a mental escape. Oh man, if we could bottle and sell mental sorbet, wouldn't that be awesome? A mental escape is a perfect reason to listen to a podcast. Self-improvement. I love to listen to a podcast called the Nutrition Science Podcast with Dr. Adrian Chavez. It just presents things in such an easy to understand way, and often takes on very popular myths about things like seed oils, which I had an interest in for quite some time. Listen to Dr. Chavez's perspective on seed oils, and that helped me a lot. So self-improvement, health, mental well-being, all great reasons. And lastly, to challenge the way I think. So on the one hand, I want to hear a perspective that maybe shares my perspective and takes me down that pathway. On the other hand, if I'm pretty convinced about blue, yeah, I'll listen to a podcast that is talking about red, provided it respects the blue perspective, if you know what I mean. That it's not just saying blue is wrong and you need to change the way you do things. If red is presented in an interesting and defendable and thoughtful way, I'm definitely interested in that. So there they are, the top 14 reasons people listen to podcasts. Now go back and look at your podcast or the one you're thinking of developing. Are you really focused on 2 or 3 of these niches for your listeners? If your podcast is an interview podcast and its focus is, oh, there's an interesting person, let's bring them in and do an episode with them, that's probably a signal that you're not looking at it through one of these lenses. Nowhere on this list was meet interesting people. They want interesting topics. They want things that already agree with them. They want to laugh. All these great reasons why people want to have a podcast. Please subscribe to this YouTube channel, share it with your friends, talk about it, and we'd love it if you followed us on any one of the podcast apps. We're under Stories and Strategies for Public Relations and Marketing. Keep podcasting.